Would you recommend the course to somebody else?
Yes, I would wholeheartedly recommend this course. I've spoken to some people who said things along the lines, "Oh, but I'm too busy. How could I spend the time doing that?" And the way I feel about this is how could you spend the time not to? If you don't have this knowledge, every time you think about any computing element, it's a sort of kind of tax on your mental model, right? If you think through abstractions that aren't solid all the way down, you'll miss connections, you'll make inferences that are sort of unwarranted. And I think when I think about whether I should learn something, one of the key questions is how much do I use this concept every day, and how important is it? And for something like computing, where you just constantly reuse all these concepts, then even like a slight improvement in fidelity and quality of your underlying mental model, I think will have huge effects downstream on how well you're able to navigate this space.
So welcome to a short interview with Jacob, who took the course recently. How's it going, Jacob?
Very well, thank you, Matt.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you based?
In Berkeley, California.
Right. And maybe tell us a little bit about your background.
Right. So I'm a founder working in the AI security and safety space, thinking a lot about powerful AI systems that we will develop in the next few years, as it seems now, and what's required to build all the way from the data center level to the sort of software application level to ensure those systems are deployed safely and securely. Yeah.
So did you have any previous ASIC or digital design experience before taking the course?
No, this was first in that area.
Okay. And why did you want to do the course?
I think at Samsung Foundry they have this saying that there's the Chinese wall between the foundry and the design business, and TSMC famously says that they don't compete with their customers. And I think similarly there is a bit of a Chinese wall between software people and hardware people. You can go to these hardware conferences and see the kinds of things people say about AI and software things, and how they're vastly out of touch with what's happening on that front. And then you can go talk to the people training these models in San Francisco, and the amount they know about the low level hardware is sometimes almost non-existent. And I'm trying to build this full stack understanding. Or by full stack, I don't just mean front end and back end for a website, but all the way from the silicon and the manufacturing, up to the ASICs, to the kernels of the OS, through to the programming languages, and then all the way up to the applications and the browser in the end. And I think, given how sort of fractured and complicated the modern computing stack is getting, it's getting increasingly rare to build up that understanding. However, it's becoming a lot easier to do, especially with courses like this, or with AI assistants now. And I think you can actually become kind of a computing renaissance man if you have the desire. And I think you can sort of build and understand a lot more important things if you strive to have that sort of full stack understanding, which goes all the way down to the
transistors,
all the way down to the transistors, the CMOS gates, or even lower than the transistors. I really love this talk of yours of undetectable hardware trojans, where you switch around the P and N doping in ways you can't even uncover on closer inspection. That's sort of I find that fascinating.
Yeah. What part of the course did you enjoy the most?
So I enjoyed the weekly hangouts. I think they're pretty great. Because you get a bit of this of the alchemy. You have those people who show up who spent 20 years at Synopsys or wherever, and they kind of give you this stuff that you can't that's not in the training data. That's not online. You just have to hear it in conversation. You sort of pick up on some of the details of how those things work. Okay, I think it was amazing when we used the initial tool. I remember what's it called? The online tool that's not like
Silly
Siluis. Yes, because Magic is such a big threshold to get started. But
Yeah.
Siluis, you just drop yourself in there. You're designing transistors in 2 minutes. You get to test them. It really has this extremely iterative, extremely intuitive workflow, which I find kind of incredible. And it sort of it removes the annoying hurdles of wrestling with the software. And instead, you can just ask yourself sort of these foundational questions about how the chemistry works, how the silicon works, how the physics works, and actually try that in real time. So I think that part was amazing. Really, really great tool. And then separately, I really like the sort of open lane, the part about the open lane flow, about not just sort of making a toy transistor and doing the electrical engineering, but getting a sense for the entire design flow for a modern CMOS through sort of design and RTL synthesis and like fault correction and floor planning and what are all these automated steps and how do they happen and what's required to get to the GDS2 files, and actually kind of demystifying that and using some of the extremely powerful open source tooling that's getting built. And yeah, I think just that part was also definitely a favorite part. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So did it help you achieve your goal of becoming a Renaissance man?
For sure. I think it's extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Good to hear that. Would you recommend the course to somebody else?
Yes, I would wholeheartedly recommend this course. I've spoken to some people who said things along the lines, "Oh, but I'm too busy. How could I spend the time doing that?" And the way I feel about this is how could you spend the time not to? If you don't have this knowledge, every time you think about any computing element, it's a sort of kind of tax on your mental model, right? If you think through abstractions that aren't solid all the way down, you'll miss connections. You'll make inferences that are sort of unwarranted. And I think when I think about whether I should learn something, one of the key questions is how much do I use this concept every day, and how important is it? And for something like computing, where you just constantly reuse all these concepts, then even like a slight improvement in fidelity and quality of your underlying mental model, I think will have huge effects downstream on how well you're able to navigate this space. And so yeah, I think I would extremely highly recommend it. I think it's almost required reading for people who want to be a Renaissance computer person.
Yeah, I really like your the way you put it, like to improve your fidelity of your mental model. Yeah, I really that resonates with me. I'm going to give you like the beginning of a sentence, and then I want you to try to finish it.
Right.
So the course helped me to
Design a very simple ASIC from the transistors through to the Verilog and the formal verification.
One thing that surprised me was
that it's actually possible to make something like Silivis.
Yeah.
I keep falling into the trap of thinking we have this massive, complicated, old tools. Surely things are complicated by default, but that's not the case. We can, have this sort of pedagogical revolution almost in how accessible and how useful and how intuitive these tools are, and we can bring them into the 21st century, whether it means they're sort of web based or even collaborative, I'm sure there'll come sort of like some AI first approach to this tooling. But yeah, that it's possible to bring things to such an accessible level. I think it generally is in most domains, but it requires a particular kind of sort of engineering and design and domain-specific expertise. But always when someone does that, it surprises me a bit.
Cool. One more. After finishing the course,
I had a ton of new ideas for ASICs I wanted to build, and I actually felt like I had the chops to go and start executing them. And for pieces I can't put together myself, now I knew where to look and how to go about finding the right person or the right software to resolve that.
That's great. These are new questions for me, suggested by a friend of mine. So they give a real good insight, I think. Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Any closing thoughts? Well, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate the effort you put into making this community happen. I haven't been at the weekly calls for a while because work and time zones and stuff. But when I did go, I really enjoyed them. I hope to return to them. And yeah, I think sometimes as a community organizer, there's a lot of unrecognized effort. So I want to take the time to thank you for all you're doing here. I think it really matters, and it's some really cool stuff that you're causing to happen.
Well, thanks very much for saying so. Thanks, Jacob.
Sure.
And hopefully see you back on the weekly call sometime soon.
Yeah, that would be great.